I've always loved night drives. The highway, deserted and quiet, seemed like another world where you could escape the hustle and bustle of the day. But that night, the last time I drove my old sedan, my love of the night roads was gone forever. It was past midnight when I left town. A 6-hour journey through a wooded area to get to my parents' house awaited me. The moon was hidden behind clouds, and only my headlights cut through the darkness. About an hour into the trip, the radio began to hiss and interrupt. I twisted the knob trying to adjust the frequency, but instead of music, the speakers were filled with whispers. I froze. The whispering grew louder and louder, until it became an inhuman scream, and I turned the radio off abruptly. My heart was pounding in my ears. Must be interference, I convinced myself. The road wiggled between trees, and I noticed fog rising from the ground like ghosts trying to climb into the car. My attention was drawn to the road, but then I saw her, a woman in white standing on the side of the road. She was looking right at me, her eyes full of despair. I slowed down. "Do you need help?" I asked, rolling down the window. She nodded, and I opened the door to let her in. "My name is Anna," she said in a quiet voice. "I need to get to the next town." Her gaze was fixed on the road ahead, and she seemed tense. We drove in silence until we reached a fork where she asked to turn onto an old forest road. "Are you sure?" I asked, but she only nodded. The road was narrow and winding, and the fog was getting thicker. Suddenly, she said, "Pull over." I slowed down, and she pointed to an old abandoned house by the road. "Here," she said, getting out of the car. "Thanks for the ride." She walked off in the direction of the house and disappeared into the fog. I drove on, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. After a few minutes, I saw a sign with the name of a town where the main road clearly led. Why did she ask me to turn off? I thought. Suddenly, the car gave a crash and stalled. I tried to start it, but to no avail. There was only darkness and silence all around. I pulled out my cell phone, but there was no signal. My heart was pounding in my chest as I realized I was going to have to walk. I got out of the car and headed back to the house where I left Anna. The door was ajar and I peeked inside. Suddenly, I heard the same whispering sound that came from the radio, and it was coming from inside the house. I froze as the whispering turned into laughter. The inside of the house was cold and empty. On the wall hung a picture of the same woman in white. Underneath it was the date and name, Anna, 1913. My breathing quickened. I realized I had met a ghost. I ran back to the car, and this time it started. I got out of there as fast as I could and never went back to that road again. But sometimes, when I'm home alone, I hear whispers and laughter, and I know Anna is still with me.